joining us right now. Usually joins us on Friday, but obviously there's something big going on tomorrow. From the Ricky Room on the Comcast Business Hotline, Dave Zangaro. What's up, Dave?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
They were doing pretty well. Now, we're doing excellent, actually. Dave, I gave you credit on Monday because at some point during the year, I forget which week it was, you're on with us every week, you started to really point out how good this team was and their lack of flaws. And then we see it all culminate in the Super Bowl. As you were watching the game, and I've read a lot of things you've written this week, but maybe for people that haven't, on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com, what was the moment where you started to even be surprised yourself as a guy who was confident and picked the team to win before the game on pregame live? When did you start to be like, wow, I didn't expect it to be like this?
Yeah, I think just watching the defensive line get after Patrick Mahomes the way they did, I thought they'd have some success. I thought they had a better defensive line than they had offensive line, but it was like every single play they were in his face. They were affecting him. He was starting to play out of character for the player he is. So I think when I started seeing that play in and play out, you're going, okay, they're not going to be able to match points with the Eagles in this game. And then the dagger, obviously, was the Devontae Smith catch. That was when everyone knew there was ball game. I go back to the week of the Super Bowl being in New Orleans, and I talked to you guys after most of that week was over. The one thing that struck me was just how confident and how relaxed the Eagles were. It was like they went into that game just knowing they were the better team, and if they just handled business, they were going to come out with the win. And we heard from a bunch of defensive players after the game. And I think one of the messages that they'd kind of been tossing around all week was that it didn't have to be close. Everyone was saying it's going to be a close game. I think we're all just trained to say that in the Super Bowl because these two teams have worked the entire year to get here, and theoretically they should be similar level of teams, but the Eagles just felt like they were clearly the better team, and then they went out and played like it. It's really a game that none of us will ever forget. It was a butt kicking in the Super Bowl. It doesn't happen that often, and this team, we knew that they had the ability to be one of the best teams we'd ever seen. It took a long time for them to put it all together, and to then see them put it together on the biggest stages in the NFC Championship game and then the Super Bowl. That's special stuff.
Yeah, I thought I was reading one of your articles, and the one thing that stepped up to me is that there are guys building their legacy right now. And Nick Sirianni, and the last line you put in this thing, there are just 3 coaches in NFL history with a winning percentage over 700 in the regular season and a Super Bowl title. It's Nick, Vince Lombardi, and John Madden. Where is he legacy-wise in this game?
Yeah, I mean, legacies, they get built in the Super Bowl. There's no way around it. And for a guy like Nick Sirianni, who he's had such a weird 5 years now, going into 5 years here, the ups and the downs, we all know he almost got fired after 2023. For him to go from that to then hoisting the Lombardi Trophy after the next season is pretty remarkable. And in his day after press conference, he's dreary-eyed. He clearly hasn't slept. I haven't slept, but I asked him why this team was so close. And his answer was amazing to me. He said it's because they went through adversity together. And standing there next to the Lombardi Trophy, he says that he's grateful for having gone through the 2023 season, which when you take a step back to think about it is amazing. This is the season he's talking about that almost got him fired, that left him hanging in the wind for 9 days after the season ended. And then a year later, he gets to hoist the Lombardi Trophy and say how grateful he is that he went through it. It's just an amazing story to go from where he was. And, even the beginning of this year, it was every single loss was viewed through the lens of whether or not this guy is going to survive the season. And that wasn't completely unfair based on what happened the previous year. So to go from that to then winning a Super Bowl, to having this incredible culture around your team, and now to the point where he's clearly going to get an extension at some point this offseason. It's truly amazing. And he, as much as anyone, maybe more than anyone, boosted his legacy with this win.
Dave, Jalen Hurts, he was so locked in that game. And there's audio of him, Tanner McKee going up to him and saying, you can smile now. He's like, nope. He's waiting till it's not over. He's so locked in. Have you ever seen, in your time covering the team, seen a player who's so focused and so intent on winning than Jalen Hurts?
No, it's special. He has some special traits, and we always knew that. It was a matter of whether or not his play could match up to the special traits, and now it is. Like, he's showing up in these big moments. Like, three of his best games I've ever seen him play are Super Bowl 57, Super Bowl 59, and the NFC Championship game to get to Super Bowl 59. So, I mean, he shows up in these big moments, and I think he is just so singularly focused and driven on being as great as he can be and winning championships. To talk to him today, I mean, he's saying that, winning the Super Bowl kind of pales in comparison to losing one in terms of the hurt and pain that he felt from losing 57. And I think that's special, and that's something Tom Brady talks about, right? Like, the Super Bowls he lost are the ones that stick with him, and I think Jalen has some of that in him.
You know what? When you look at this defense, I mean, what they have done from the beginning of the season till the Super Bowl, did you expect it? Did you ever think that they could get this high?
No. Honestly, no. Like, we knew they had talent, but it was such a disaster at the end of the 2023 season. I think a lot of us looked at this team and thought the offense is going to need to carry it, right? You have all these amazing players. You have Jalen Hurts, that line, Saquon, AJ, Devontae, Dallas Goedert. All the star power was on the offense. So my thought was that you bring in Vic Fangio, he's going to bring at least stability to that defense. They're not going to be lost. If they get to be like an average or slightly above average defense and you have this elite offense, that's good enough. No, I mean, they were the best defense in the league, one of the best defenses we've ever seen. And it's amazing because they were so young. Like, to get to that point as quickly as they did with all these young pieces, kind of throwing new bodies together too and figuring this out. I mean, Vic Fangio, the job he did was masterful. We talk about boosting legacies. Not that he really needed it. I mean, everyone knows how good of a coordinator he is, but to get his first Super Bowl and to have a defense that was this good for the entire season is amazing. And then in the Super Bowl, to really confuse the heck out of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, yeah, I mean, that's legendary stuff, and it's a defense we'll never forget in the city.
We're speaking with Dave Zangaro. Did a tremendous job covering the Eagles for NBC Sports Philadelphia. A.J. Brown in the game obviously gets a touchdown. Devontae Smith. Those guys were both kind of overshadowed by Saquon Barkley this season. Obviously, every season has its own personality. Are you impressed with how both of those guys were able to, I don't know if the word's humble themselves because they were winning a lot, but basically take a back seat as wide receivers that are naturally, they all want the ball on every play, and then still be able and locked in enough to deliver in the Super Bowl?
Very impressed. And I actually talked to Aaron Moorhead, the receivers coach, about this on Monday night while we were in New Orleans. And he said that at times he had to kind of remind the guys that what they were doing and why they were doing it and what the mission was. But he also said that, winning makes it a lot easier for guys to accept that role. I think what stands out about those two guys in particular is how proud they became of their blocking downfield, which is like A.J. Brown has always had the ability to block. He's never been a particularly good blocker. And to see how much he improved in that area this year and how proud of it he was, it was special. And these guys knew that, like, Saquon has the ability to break a long run every single time he touches the football, and they didn't want to be the reason why he didn't break a touchdown run. So I think that was there. Moorhead also told me he brought up Devin Hester in the receiver room this year because he was, at the end of Moorhead's playing career, Devin Hester was obviously going on this incredible run as a return man. And all those guys on the Chicago Bears were telling Moorhead that, like, yeah, we're selling out the block for this guy because we know how special he is. We know that he can take the ball to the house at any given moment when he gets it. And he said it was really similar to what Saquon was this year, that every time Saquon touched the ball, they knew he could take it the distance. And the last thing you want is to be the guy who doesn't hold up your block on the outside or doesn't have your technique right. And that's the reason it doesn't go for a long run. So, yeah, really impressed by especially those two star guys because the other receivers, they know their roles. But for those star receivers to buy in the way they did, it makes it tough for anyone else to complain about their role.
I think the one interesting thing that popped out about this is that the rookies on the defensive end, the guys that were just drafted, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and what they did, not just in the regular season, but they played big roles in the playoffs also. Do you expect that to continue?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be good for a long time. And it's really fun to have these two guys play these big roles in their rookie years, knowing that they haven't hit their ceilings yet, right? Like Quinyon Mitchell, to me, is one of the best cornerbacks in the league already after one season. Like, he's going to get better. Cooper Jean's going to get better. They're going to get to play together for a long time. The future's really bright, and it's not just those two guys either. Like Jalen Hunt, the third-round pick by the end of the season, he has a half a sack in the Super Bowl, right? He's getting constant pressure. He looks really good. That defense is so young, and they might lose some pieces. We know that the big-time free agents, the Zach Bonds, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, they're not going to be able to sign everyone, but they're still so young on that side of the football. It starts with Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalen Hunt, but you have Nolan Smith. You have Jalen Carter. I mean, you have all these young pieces. Even CJ is still relatively young. Reed Blankenship, relatively young. That they're going to be intact next year. It might not be the entire defense back, but there's no reason to think they won't be very good again next year.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for all the great stuff all season long. We really, really appreciate it. And obviously, enjoy the coverage of the parade tomorrow as well. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right, that was Dave Zangaro on the Comcast Business Hotline from the Ricky Room. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. If you want more of this content, make sure you like and subscribe. And you can do that kind of over here if you want more of the best show ever.